I hope this finds you well and living your best life in Jesus Christ. Always think before you speak, my mom would say. And she said it to me a lot, especially in my teens and early 20s. As I look back on that time in my life, I can now clearly see that many of the problems and disasters in my life were caused by an ill-timed cutting remark, a poorly expressed self-centered thought, or even worse, harsh words said in anger. It's no wonder that in retrospect I had the reputation of being a very negative person, and I was. Because that harsh and foolish speech came from a hard, angry, foolish, unsaved heart. And as much as I could wish I could say that it's no longer a problem in my life, it's certainly not as big as it used to be, I suspect that deep down inside I'm not all that far from using foolish, thoughtless words. That's why part of my daily prayers is that the Lord help me to always think before I speak, to always put others first, and to channel His grace in all of my life, but especially in my speech. I'm like everybody else, I slip occasionally, but through God's infilling in my life, I'm getting better all the time. As a pastor, I try as much as possible to maintain a positive, Christ-like frame of mind at all times, especially in dealing with others. But as recently as yesterday, I had to apologize to someone not for being harsh or for being angry or even saying the wrong thing, but for generally just being negative. Admittedly, I was very tired, and when we're tired or angry or in pain, it's sometimes difficult to remain in the mind of Christ. But that is indeed what we are called to do at all times. We are to be held to a higher standard. Brother James tells us in James 3, 5, and 6, likewise the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, the world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. When we lack self-control, we're vulnerable to all kinds of problems. Anything out of control in your life can harm other people and damage your close relationships. Not to mention, unresolved sin can hurt others almost as much as it hurts you. Uncontrolled anger or lust or addiction or spending or drinking or ambition or a number of other things can cause enormous problems in our lives and in our relationships. These sins must be rebuked and brought under submission by claiming the blood of Christ in our lives. But I'm of the opinion that the greatest destroyer of relationships is an uncontrolled tongue. I once read a statistic that said that the average person has almost 30 conversations a day. Of course, that was before the pandemic and the quarantine. But if that's true, that would mean we spend around 1/5 of our lives talking. For many of us, that number is probably a bit low, but at some point, your mouth will probably get you into trouble if it hasn't already, because the odds are certainly against you. James compared the tongue to a tiny spark, because that's all it's really needed to create a great forest fire, as the people currently fighting massive fires in California and Oregon can attest. A careless word can set fire to your relationships and make them all go up in smoke if you're not really careful. That's why it's so important that we learn to truly listen to others and not be so quick to speak all the time. I like Rick Warren's description of this because he calls people who are so quick to foolish, selfish, and careless speech verbal arsonists. I love that. They are dangerous to themselves and others. Their words are dangerous. They use words of discouragement and disappointment, accusation and criticism, sarcasm, condemnation or attack, or many other things. The list is absolutely endless. And of course, I have at many times spoken of the dangers of gossip. Gossip is especially destructive because it spreads like an airborne virus. Let's face it, careless words have destroyed careers, friendships, and families. Christians need to choose better. Instead of heading in a destructive direction, we need to choose to use our words to build each other up. We need to catch people doing something right and tell them about it. We need to affirm their character when they make very difficult decisions. We need to lift them up with words of encouragement. Building others up with your words isn't difficult, but unfortunately in our world it is uncommon and people will notice. This morning I want you to remember that you reflect God's glory in a dark world when you control your mouth and build others up. Or in other words, let's take Mom's advice and think before we speak, before we actually set fire to some of the things that we hold most dear. I hope you make today a terrific day, and I want you to know that I'm here if you need me. I love you all.